Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the Worthit podcast, episode number 10. Oh my god, we made double figures, JD. Can you believe it?
I can't believe we made it this far.
Yay!
How have we not been cancelled?
We're in isolation week. Oh, still week 1, actually. Do you know what? I was listening to something the other day, and I was thinking, how long have we been in isolation for? So I texted a few people. It's only been 6 days.
Oh.
I thought it's been so much longer than it has been. But anyways, yeah, welcome
like
back to
2 weeks.
the Worthit podcast. We're back. Today we're going to be talking about post-production, and we've got a special guest on the show. Hello, Alex.
Hello.
You okay?
Yeah, doing all right.
Good. How are you finding isolation?
It's interesting. We'll say that.
You got your supply of
People
toilet
that
paper?
you mind it.
You could say I'm bored. Yeah. No,
My
it's all
gosh.
good.
Were you one of those? Were you one of those people who went out and panic bought all the stuff, or are you a sensible person?
The latter one, I think.
Well, oh dear. Okay, so let's do this. Let's get cracking. Let's talk about post-production and all things editing, because at the minute it's quite an interesting time. I guess we finished our three projects. If you can count EXN as a 12 in 12 project, we finished 3 before the lockdown hit.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that's 3 editing credits under your belt, Mr. Gordon. How do you find the editing process in general?
I think it's really enjoyable. Really, it's just really nice to edit the footage that we've got. It's really nice.
Yeah, awesome. Is there a specific? I can't even speak today. Bloody hell! Is there a specific genre do you like to edit in particular?
I really enjoyed editing the EXN stuff that we've been doing. It's been really fun to do that. All the documentary side of it, really nice.
You see, I've always kind of hated documentary. I never really liked it at all, especially when I started university. I never liked watching them. I never liked being a part of them. I hated making them whilst at uni. But then over time, ever since I've come out of uni, we've made EXN and stuff, I've found the whole process of documentary filmmaking really, really interesting, from start all the way through to finish, because you can almost design and make whatever you want anytime, and you don't really have to act. You don't have to get actors. You can film whenever you want. You can take however long you want on the project. It's great.
It flows in more naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. What's your take on docs, JD?
They're easier to do, but personally it's not my favourite thing to do. I've just never been a fan of documentaries personally.
Yeah. Is it because you find it boring, or is it something else?
Yeah, because I like things that aren't grounded in reality. I like fiction.
Fair enough. Okay, cool. Awesome.
That's just me.
So obviously the editing and post-production process is the biggest, or arguably the biggest process of the entire filmmaking spectrum, I say. It's the longest, it's the most laborious, for some people anyway. And I guess arguably the most important. Do you think, Alex, that an editor has the ability to change the entire film's look?
Definitely. I think the way that a film is edited can entirely change the mood, whether that be ambient sound, whether that be if you're talking about drama, you can change scene order to make it seem different to the viewer. It can definitely change, even the way that it's color graded can change the entire mood of a scene or an entire film.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're jumping onto projects or editing with projects, do you tend to work with directors, camera operators, all that jazz that have the same look and feel to how you edit?
Yeah. So typically, I know that when we've done, say, interview, for instance, I was on set for that, and looking at the script, you could kind of see the tone that was trying to be set out with that. So finding things like music to complement that, and finding a color grade to complement that was, something that you could gauge off the script. And obviously talking to you and talking to JD, who were obviously directing, was really handy to get what was needed for that project.
Who do you think is the most important person in the editing process, aside from the editor? Clearly, is it the producer or the director?
I'm gonna have to say the director. I think that's the most important person for me, apart from the editor, because they're the one with the vision for the film, and it's trying to get as close to that as possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Not to mention, they're the one who's going to give you
we-
all the instructions and details of where you need to go.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. How did you find the edit process, JD?
Laborious, tedious, and utterly boring. I have so much respect for people who are able to sit down and just edit an entire film as quickly as possible, because I don't even know how you're able to sit down and learn it. It's so tedious to do. I just can't be bothered to do it. Every time I've looked at an editing screen, I've just cried and gone, no, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, and as I've mentioned multiple times, the word laborious, the word tedious, the word long is used way too much. So, as editors and in post-production in general, the biggest aim and goal is to try and get stuff out the way as quick as possible. So, get one part finished so we can move on to the next and get the project packaged, delivered, and out into the public eye as quick as possible. With that being said, obviously it's really important to use specific programs that you enjoy using, sticking to your guns, customizing hotkeys and stuff. Alex, do you do the same thing? Do you have a specific program that you always stick to?
Yeah, so I typically work inside the Adobe suite. I've got loads of macros set up for that, so I can easily get the tools I need. I know where everything is. And yeah, I have dabbled in like other programs, but typically that's what I will stick to.
Yeah, absolutely. So that being said, that would be Adobe Premiere Pro, After Effects, Photoshop, all that jazz.
Yeah.
Is that because of the cross-compatibility of all the other programs?
Yeah, I think the dynamic link is something that is, in the Adobe stuff, is something that's very handy to have, because I can just send a project straight from Premiere to After Effects, bring in Photoshop files, bring in Audition files. It's so easy to work with.
Because it's not just used in the likes of short filmmaking, but it's also widely used in like corporate work. It's used in advertising. It's used in music video creation. It's used in so much stuff. The Adobe suite.
Definitely.
I guess as the years go on, Adobe's really quickly catching up with the likes of Avid, because Avid's obviously the traditional editing software that all of the industry guys use for feature filmmaking and stuff like that. What's your take on Avid?
I like it. Yeah, I am Avid certified, and it's something that is, when we were doing the course in last summer, it was something that was very difficult to pick up on, but I think as it's like anything, as soon as you start to use it more and more, you become more familiar with the software, you learn its quirks, you learn how to use it quickly and efficiently, and I think that's something that just anyone needs to learn if they want to start to master any software, really.
Yeah, let's talk about that Avid course a little bit, because that was perhaps one of the hardest things I've ever done. Oh my god, it was crazy. Like they sit you down at the start of the week, and they give you the thickest book you've ever seen in your entire life. Go, right, we've got 3 days to cover this. Now you got an exam on Wednesday.
Yeah.
No pressure there. But if you fail your exam, you fail the entire course, and you have to get above 80%. Unbelievable.
It is mad.
Oh my god. So I went in with 14 people. And only 2 of us passed the first one, and I knew those same 2 people passed the second one. It was just unreal. It's so tough, but it was a good experience in the end, because I learnt loads of stuff that I hadn't learnt before. Because a lot of the time whenever I edited anything, I was always self-taught. So if I had a problem or I needed something fixing, I'd always go online onto YouTube and say, oh, how do I do this? And somebody would show me through a tutorial. I'd go, okay, that's great, I've learnt that now. And that's kind of how I learnt all of my bits and pieces through, using Sony Vegas at the start, when I got a cracked version of Sony Vegas, and then the cracked version of Premiere Pro, CS5, 4, 3, one of them, and then eventually through uni. I was still actually using cracked Adobe software through like the first and second year uni until I realised there was a massive student discount on Creative Cloud that I actually changed over to that. But were you self-taught in any way?
Yeah, so initially I took the same thing. I was on Sony Vegas, cracked version of Sony Vegas, and then before I joined uni, I tried to learn as much as I could about Premiere, and obviously uni is aided with that, but yeah, a lot of my Premiere and I guess Vegas stuff as well is all self-taught.
Yeah.
And just do the same as you, just looking through online stuff, just trying to find what works, what doesn't work, and just learning the tools that are in the program, because there are so many.
Yeah. Stepping aside from like the likes of editing for a minute and post-production in general, JD, tell me, how did you yourself learn acting? Was it self-taught?
Yeah, it was all self-taught. I just went in, helped build a set one day, and someone asked, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this play?" And I went, "Sure." And it was the same for everything I've learned in this industry, editing as well. Someone will have looked and gone, "Hey, can you do this?" And I go, "No, but I'll try."
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was like Hans Zimmer or someone who had an interview for Rotten Tomatoes. It was actually, I remember now, and he said the first thing he does that when he looks at a project, he tells himself he can't do it, and he tells everybody else he can't do it, and they have to go and convince him to actually make the project. Which is, I think, it's a great way to look at things.
It's probably the most morale depleting thing possible. Can you imagine just turning up to set and you have to tell your boss, "No, we can't do it, chief."
So if we break down post-production, there's like 1.5 million different steps and processes that people have to do, from when we first, take the footage off set, to assistant editing, to the assembly edit, to then the fine cut, to the picture lock, through to grading, and then finally audio and all that jazz. And of course, including with that VFX and any animation that goes in, titling, lower thirds, credits, all of that stuff. There's like 1,000,001 different things to do with post-production that we don't think of, but when we break it down, there's actually a lot of different jobs that could be taken on. Alex, is there a favourite job that you have at all within that whole process?
I would say I really, really enjoy just piecing together scenes, like just choosing different camera angles for a scene, seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's cool. I always like when I'm editing something and I think, this camera angle just doesn't slightly work, and I scroll down a little bit further in the bin and there's like that beautiful, perfect shot, and I think, oh, yes,
yeah,
I've got it, that's it. I do like doing that, actually, and I love how differently people work and how differently different editors work. So obviously, if I was to edit a 5-minute sequence, and then I was give it to you to edit the same 5-minute sequence, it would look entirely different. Or it might not, I don't know, because obviously we work together quite a lot on very similar projects. Mm-hmm. So I'd say that we have kind of a similar outlook on how we make films. So I think it might be quite similar, but just slightly different, clearly, because we're different people, so different people edit things differently.
Yeah.
I guess it's like a fingerprint, isn't it? Everyone's got a different fingerprint.
Absolutely.
So, okay, right, let's have a look. So you said documentary at the minute for our projects was the favourite thing that you've edited so far, so EXN. Is there, then, in that case, if you were to be handed a script right now, what genre would it be and why?
Ooh, good question. I reckon for a script, I would probably go something that was similar to the pace of the Ghostly X. I think that was something that was quite fun, because it started off quite slow and then built to something which was quite intense, and it was really, really something that was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. Okay, cool, awesome. So something that I've noticed whenever I'm on set and directing, whenever I get up and I show people how I want them to move or to act or to do something, especially when we did like the likes of Hunted, where we got the actual actors up and we went through action sequences, we showed them the throws, we showed them the moves. I felt like that really helped me bring across my thought process when actually directing the scenes and stuff. Do you ever feel like editing, standing up, getting involved with the scene yourself actually helps you edit in any way?
Yeah, I think the main thing is just constantly going over the script, making sure you know that script as well as you can, so you can try and match on screen what is the tone, what is trying to be set out, because the last thing you want to do is change the tone to something else that isn't what was intended.
Yeah.
obviously you can experiment with stuff, but the main focus of the film has to stay. And so just trying to make sure you know that script, you know what's being set out as well as possibly can, is the main thing for me.
I guess.
So something that we have to do. Oh, sorry, JD.
I was just going to say, like, I guess that means you have to kind of really work in tangent and stay very communicative with the director and everyone involved, essentially, don't you?
Yeah,
yeah, it kind of highlights it, doesn't it? Communication is massive.
Yeah, because if you take like one step out of line that isn't in step with everyone else, then the entire thing starts to derail and fall apart.
Yeah, I completely agree. Absolutely. And with that being said, some of the most laborious processes in pre-production, so that would be shot lists and storyboards and stuff. Do they actually matter in edit, Alex? Do you actually look at those things and help that influence your editing at all? Or?
Yeah, so when we've worked in the past, so like our interview, we did a shot list for the indoor scenes, and the indoor scenes were we had a favourite shot that we used, and so that was something which was obviously really handy to have. Because we could see exactly, okay, well, this was the favourite shot of the scene, and so we could see, well, okay, that can go straight in the edit. Obviously, we can have a look at the other shots that we've taken, and we can see, well, okay, that might work better, but initially, as a starting off point, that is something that is really handy, because immediately we can say, well, just put that scene in and see if it works or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I've noticed with some production companies especially is that they sort of like pre-edit their stuff before it's even shot. So they like, for example, Parasite was almost technically edited before it was even filmed, in the way in which they used the storyboards and matched them together within an animatic sequence that they then gave to the editor and said, this is exactly how I want this film to look. Do you think that's kind of like cheating the system?
No, I think that's actually that's a really creative way of getting around the edit, because it streamlines the whole process when you have actually filmed your footage. That makes the you can see exactly what the film should be like before you actually get the footage, which is something which is really handy, I guess.
Okay, so with that being said then, do you feel like when you edit a project it's somebody else's work, or do you feel like it's still a little bit of your work too?
I would say mostly someone else's, depending on how much creative input you have as the editor. I think if you've changed a lot of the film in the edit, if you've altered the tone in some way, then I think there's more ownership on the editor perhaps. But if you're constructing something based from the director, I still think it's their project, definitely.
Yeah, okay, cool.
That's an interesting thought, considering how much weight you have as an editor in that scenario.
Yeah, it's almost like I guess you get given a task delivered by somebody and you have to obey by the very points of that task, or you can do your own thing and say, actually, this is going to work better. Yeah, as you say, Alex, it depends on the creative control that you get given.
Absolutely.
At that time. And I guess that goes down with like trust and stuff like that between yourself and the director and the producer. If you work enough with a person, they go, yeah, go on, just edit that and export it, that's fine. I think I've done that to you before, Alex, actually. I think it was with my Ghostly X, actually.
Yeah.
I gave you the final fix notes for it, and I said, after that's done, just hit export and upload it, I'm done. Because I knew it was going to be fine, because I had trust that it would be fine. But I think it's whenever we work with newer editors that we haven't actually seen before, we haven't really worked together for very long or something like that, I'd quite like to see the final bits and pieces before they go out. But we've done like 3-4 projects now together, so I'm pretty comfortable with what you do like. So yeah, okay, cool. So with that being said, yes, we do adhere to the points given by either the writer, the director, the producer, whoever says what. But at the same time, we are allowed to have that little creative touch, flair, control over the project. Otherwise, we wouldn't hire an editor in the first place. We'd let the director edit. So, okay, cool, that's great. So, with that being said now, let's talk about the final point of delivery. So that's the color grade and stuff like that. How important do you feel like the color grade is on a project?
Definitely very important. I think the color grade, you have to make sure that especially in feature films, that your grade is consistent throughout the whole film, especially from transitioning from indoor to outdoor scenes, or if you change locations, the film has to look a certain way, and it has to feel unique as well.
Yeah, I didn't realise how much of a process the colour grade was until I actually started doing it properly. When I actually started editing as well, I didn't realise that colour grading was an actual thing until I got to the end of the project and thought, this looks like crap, how do I make it look better? And I realised colour grading is an entire degree you can get aside from everything else, which is absolutely mental. Colour science and all that jazz is such a really specific field, I guess, and there's so much detail that goes into specific colours that people take, and even in regards to, because it's a process that starts quite early on, so colour grading and colour science in general is developed from when you start the shot list off and you start designing your sets, right at the very beginning through to when you're actually filming, and all the way through into the edit. Obviously it carries right the way through. So if you were to be, would you rather, Alex, actually be given a colour grade by a director of photography first before you go to the colour correction process, or would you rather develop one yourself?
I think I would prefer to be given one initially by the DOP on a film. I think if you've got a starting off point, at least you can then go from there and you can alter that, but at least you know what was intended by the cinematographer. And they've been on set, they've seen everything, so it's a lot easier for them to see what would work, and they've lit it a certain way to have a certain look, so you want to try and match that when you grade.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, we grade stuff to show a theme, maybe to show a mood, to light a scene, whatever. Is there any specific situation where you've had to use a colour grade to save a shot?
I think on Ghost of the X we tried to make the grade seem a bit cooler, to try and make it look like it was I guess more of a wintry, darker location, and that was something that changed not massively, but it did change the scene, and it positively changed the scene, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. JD, have you ever had I guess especially with interview, have you ever said to Alex, hey, I want this scene to look this colour, and is there a reason why?
Yes, but never in those words. It was always something along the lines of, are we able to make it look, I don't know, brighter, warmer? And then Alex start pressing buttons and I'm like, you're a genius.
Yeah. So when you write or develop a project, do you ever have a specific colour scheme in mind? Do you ever want to dress your characters in a certain way, make your set look in a certain light, for example? I
guess in my mind I do. I'll paint a scene as I write, but I'm never thinking in my mind, I've got to keep the colour grading in mind. It's not something that jumps to the forefront of my mind. And it's one of those, you say it out loud and you're like, that really should be a priority. It's something really important and can set an entire scene. But I can't say
it's like that thing where we go through A-level media and they say, Curly wears... no, sorry, it's not Curly, it was the other one, wasn't it? It was in GCSE English when... what's that? It was... certain thing of Mice and Men, right? Did you do Of Mice and Men?
Yes. Yeah.
In GCSE, what's the girl called in Of Mice and Men? The one that the one that Lenny kills. What's it
Spoilers.
called? Yeah, come on, everyone's done it. It's GCSE English. But anyways, yeah, she wears red. Red signifies danger, and then it's not like the writer or anything actually ever thought of that. It's just that we thought, come on, surely, she wears red, so that means danger. That's how the analysis goes. But I don't really think that the writers specifically put that in on purpose. I think it just happens to be there, and everyone just signifies it because that was convenient, wasn't it? Or whatever.
Yeah, I remember reading.
But there are some situations.
I remember reading an article that was literally about how when you're writing, don't worry about like making clues or anything. People will make up stuff for you. Just nod and agree.
Yeah, it's like you think about implanted Easter eggs. They're not really there. They're just there because people thought up of them on the spot. Maybe this guy is this guy because this guy killed this guy. Oh my god! No, that wasn't the intention. But yeah, I like it anyway.
The hotel door number is this number, and it's a reference to this guy's other film. Oh no, it's just that was the only room available.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. So yeah, I guess in a way, I don't think I've ever personally written any specific directions to colour science or anything like that in any script or in any process of them making a film. I think it just happens towards the end where I think, right, can we just make that scene maybe a little bit darker because it looks a bit, too bright or whatever. It's just whenever I think about colour correction, not colour grading, it's always like a slight touch up to make it look neater, I guess. And then when we go to the grade, it's always I always think instantly of blue, orange, or red. That's the only thing I can think of at the minute. Whether it be like a neon colour or like a wintry colour. Something that I really want to do, which I haven't done before, is I really want to grade day to night. I'd love to try that out properly and see how that looks. I think we were going to do it with the next project we were going to film before all this lockdown happened. We were actually going to shoot all of our outdoor scenes in the daytime, hope and pray that it was a cloudy day, and then pull up the blues really hard and make it look nighttime. Well, I was going to tell you to do that anyway, Alex. But here we are now. We can't do it just yet. We're going to have to wait for a little bit.
Not unless we get really creative with cameras and everyone films things in their own homes.
I'm leaning out my window of my 500 times telescopic zoom lens into Liverpool city centre. But yeah, so colour grading is massively important, but me personally, I don't think about it until right at the very end. And as we can tell, JD, you also feel in the same way slightly. Let's move on just slightly, because at the same time, we also look at audio. Really, really, really important feature in any film. Any project at all. If it has video, it must have audio with it, and the audio has to be decent enough for us to be able to watch it. Otherwise, the whole film looks like crap. I remember being told by a lecturer that audio is 80% of your project, and film or the video footage is the 20% part of the project. So if you have bad audio, you have a bad project. Don't even bother uploading it. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's absolutely key part of your project. Good audio. You can't have awful audio, otherwise the whole scene doesn't work.
And that's to do with anything at all, not just films, not just even more important in animation, because the audio is all generated in post-production anyway. Have you ever had to use Foley before, Alex?
Yes, so we did a uni project in November, and we used Foley sound for that. It was a drama production, and we used Foley sound for footsteps. We used it for, I think it was nails on a table. Just atmospheric sound like that we used.
How did it go?
It went actually all right. Yeah. We had a couple mishaps for audio, for the outside audio, but for all our indoor shots, the Foley sound worked really well. Yeah.
So when I did my little placement at Hollyoaks, one of the scenes, I was in the Foley room for one of the scenes that they were fixing up, and it was basically one of the main characters dragging a keg of beer outside of the bar, and he needed obviously some Foley to put in, so he basically got this like box, filled it up with books, and he said, "Tom, do me a favour, just drag that out the office for us." I said, what do you mean? And he was just like, just do it. And he walked right next to the microphone. We dragged it out of the office, hit record, put it into the project. It sounded great. It's crazy how many different things they can think of to reenact the sound, that you don't use real life stuff to actually reenact the sound, because sometimes, if you were to actually get a real keg and drag it along the floor, it wouldn't sound like the thing it looks on screen. You have to get something else. It's really strange. So they're saying like a balloon bursting sounds better if you don't burst a balloon on a microphone, you actually get your hand and slap it against a metal filing cabinet. Apparently that sounds better or more authentic than actually popping a balloon on microphone. It's something to do with the sound level when you actually record it. So if you pop a balloon, you can't control the level at which it records the sound at, so it's always going to be at that loudness. So if you go too far away, it won't sound very authentic. It will sound like it's, well, of course, too far away. So it's like if I stand back right now and carry on speaking, I sound quiet now, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like that kind of similar situation with the balloon pop. So if you stand the right distance to how you want your sound to record from the balloon, it's too loud. It's always going to be too loud because that's the sound of the bang. So if you stand too far away, it'll stand too far away. So therefore, being able to smack your hand on a filing cabinet, you can control how hard you smack it, and it will always sound the same. So therefore, apparently, that sounds better for Foley. Weird, isn't it?
Huh.
Really weird. I think it's a similar situation to how they start punching meat and stuff like that to make it sound like a punch.
Yeah, I know that a lot
bits
of
and
break
pieces.
noises for characters tends to be celery, out of all things.
Yeah, because you can't get a human bone and snap it in half.
No, but
that's kind of physical abuse.
I would have thought it would have been you go to a butcher's or something and you just snap a bone or something from a butcher.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess that could be, but it might be more expensive. I think it's cheaper to buy celery than
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, any way you can save money. So yeah, Foley is amazing. It's such a cool form of art, and I'd love to use it more in some projects in the future. I think we should set up a proper Foley suite somewhere and actually just get on with it and make most of our. We should do a silent film, have no audio at all, and record it all in post production. The whole ADR process, all of the sounds that go in there as well. Everything should be created from hand. Should do that as a challenge.
That'd actually be pretty good.
Almost impossible.
That'd be awesome.
I could see that being done.
Just no we can't film film that has too much dialogue in, otherwise Jesus, it would be so tough to recreate.
Just an entire film, but all the audio is in post.
Yeah. So that's sound. That's one part of sound. Anyway, the other part of sound is the score and the music that goes with it within the film. So scoring is obviously another very important process. I think we realise how much score is used in a film itself, because if you were to just watch, maybe let's think, if you were to watch Hunted, for example, that we made without any score at all in the background, it would look and sound dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. It would be so weird as well. You'd actually tell all of the audio mistakes that we made. You'd be able to see all the dodgy cuts that we did. Everything. But with the score added onto it, it makes it sound and feel so much better. Have you ever worked with a composer before, Alex?
Not directly, no, actually. I haven't.
So they're actually it's a really, really good process. They're actually really talented, very, very talented people. Oh my god! You just say to them what you want. You give them a little list, and you give them the feel of the film. You send them the draft cut of the project, give them some correct timings and stuff, and they go away. And then a week later, they come back with an entire written orchestral piece for you, and you're like, oh my god, that was cool. That was easy. But then they charge you $40,000,
Yeah.
and you have to cry. But no. So scoring is really important. I take it then, if you haven't worked with a score, if a composer before, then you must have made the score yourself, right?
Yeah, or I've scoured the YouTube or anywhere to find an appropriate score. Definitely.
Yeah. So for, I think it was The Confession. Must have been The Confession that we made. We got handed these scripts in second year. I think it was second year drama project. We get handed a choice of 3 scripts to make. You pick one script, you make the sequence, and then you submit it, and you get graded on how you made that short film. So we chose one called The Confession. It was about what was it? About a guy who goes off to guys that get deployed in the army, right? And he leaves his missus, basically, and that was the whole thing, right? About her being pissed off at him for going away. That was the whole story anyway. But we changed it a little bit, so we made it so it was I guess a 1930s what was the Second World War themed one, basically. So he was going off to war to fight in the World War, and she was pissed off at that. So we needed a score that kind of like resembled that. So upon scouring the internet, we couldn't really find anything that we didn't have to pay a lot of money for. So we ended up getting, I think it was about 30 individual stems of different songs, and just like piecing them all together to make this one overall score. There's so much bloody audio tracks in the actual file, is unbelievable. I think there was honestly about 45 audio tracks in the end in this Premiere Pro file. You can imagine how many that would have been to scroll through, Alex. That it was just, honestly, it was mental.
God.
But it's a really fun process, scoring, I reckon. Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, I think it's something that just changes the entire project. You know, I read a thing about Star Wars saying that without the type of music that was used in that film, it would never have been as popular, because initially they were going to use more like synth and more like sci-fi music, and that just wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have got the it wouldn't have held the audience for as long without the music that they chose. And
trying to picture Star Wars, but it's got a theremin instead of the orchestra.
Like you picture any film, you could instantly hear the score in your head, can't you?
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Especially with all the big blockbuster films as well.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
You've got Star Wars, you've got Pirates of the Caribbean, yes, of course. Yeah, you've got Indiana Jones. You know, all the films are anything with John Williams attached to it or Hans Zimmer.
Definitely.
You know exactly what film it is straight away. And that's because the score, you know, it's what there's one word that could be used to define those kinds of scores, and that's epic, right?
Yeah.
They are absolutely epic in every way. I'd love to make a film with that kind of score attached to it. It'd be brilliant. But yeah, so
the day
scoring.
We go down the street or to the shops and you hear someone humming our theme.
Oh yeah,
just like, I made
amazing.
that.
That'd be absolutely amazing. So we did actually make a mistake at the very start of this podcast. We didn't ask a very, very specific question that requires a very, very specific answer that we ask all of our wonderful guests that come on to the show.
Was it Have You Seen Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler?
Well, it's not quite that one, but that's just a specific question for me, man. All right, you have to ask me that every podcast, so you failed already. No, the actual very specific question we had to ask our wonderful guest. I mean, we've already had Ella on as the other guest, so I mean, wonderful guest, singular. But we did actually try and record this podcast a very long time ago. It didn't actually go too well in the recording process. Something messed up towards the end. So, that was it. It was audio drifting. Audio drifting is my worst enemy, and I only figured out what audio drifting was after that podcast. We spoke for like an hour and a half, didn't we, as well?
Yes, yeah.
And it was a really, really, really good one, and we were all dead happy about how it went, and then we found out that the audio had drifted towards the end. Oh well, cry. But yes, the one specific question I want to ask you, Alex, before we head off on this podcast is, do you consider yourself an artist?
I would say no. I don't believe an editor is an artist. I believe that if other people working in the production, like the producer, the director, the actors, DOP, I think they are artists, because they, from nothing, they pull and they get they get an end product from nothing. They have an idea in their head and they work it, and they push as hard as they can to get that into a final product. The editor, as talented as they are and as hard as they work with other people's footage, and they work to another person's vision. And so I don't believe, unless they are, or they also have another role as well, I don't believe that they by themselves are an artist.
That's a crazy thought, because even I think you actually answered the question anyway about halfway through, where we were speaking before, when you mentioned about following a script or being told by the director what to do. I think you actually answered the question anyway before, and I kind of agree, but I also kind of disagree at the same time, because if you think about it, when you say the DOP or the director or the writer actually gets it from nothing, well, the clips that get sent to you are actually a bundle of nothing as well until you make it something in a sequence on a timeline. Because without yourself or your input or an editor's input in general, I don't think we'd actually have a project at all. So I feel like as a whole, a film itself is a piece of art, and every single individual has a role to play in creating that art. So every single person within that film should then therefore be an artist, right? Everyone is an artist creating one particular large art piece. I think when we ever look at art within traditional media, it's always one painter makes a canvas project, right? But, you know, if we think about film as the art piece, then there are like hundreds of individual smaller artists that create this one massive piece in the end.
Yeah, I mean, you look at TV shows and films. There are so many moving parts. There's so many people working on those projects. It's unbelievable. You have to work. You have to be, just good at what you are and efficient at what you do, because you can't afford not to be in a project that moves as quick as it does.
Yeah. So, JD, it's your time to either light up an editor or burn them down to the ground. Do you feel like editors are artists or not?
I would say, yeah, considering the amount of effort and time, it's so precarious. It's one detail, one little clip that goes out of place, and suddenly there's just like a couple of frames where there's just a black screen in front of you. Everything hinges on an editor in my eyes, and I have so much respect for people like yourself, Alex, who are able to sit down and make this the masterpiece it is, because without it, people like me have no idea. We're done for. The whole film stops at me, and that's it, because I need you way more than you need me.
Something that you can actually tell whether a film is bad or not is if you notice a cut in a project, or you notice a fade, or you notice a bad transition, maybe it's a bad take, anything like that. It's all down to the editor. It's the editor's fault for putting that in. So therefore, they have so much weight and so much responsibility in the project that they definitely should consider themselves an artist. 100%. But yes, guys, that is the end of this podcast for today. Congratulations on episode 10, everybody. Woo!
Come back to bed.
Get in there. Yes, you can go back to bed. But yeah, thank you very much for listening to today's podcast. Of course, if you do want to check us out on YouTube, just go and hit that channel. It's just below the video, just there. If you want to subscribe for more content, we've got plenty of bits and pieces coming up at the rest of this week, for next week, week after, so on and so forth, to help you sail through quarantine like no tomorrow. So yes, we've got plenty of content going up and going live every single week. I think it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday we have individual videos going out, so stay tuned for that stuff. If you do want to go and check us out over on social media, we post every single day on different bits and pieces. Of course, our website is also linked in the description below too. Alex, thank you very much for appearing on today's podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
You've been wonderful, of course, and JD, of course, as my wonderful co-host too. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And I will speak to you all next week, guys.
Remember,
goodbye.
Wash your hands, stay hydrated, stay safe, and indoors.
Yes, please do. Bye, everybody.
Bye. And end recording.
Nice.